بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين نبينا محمد وآله وصحبه أجمعين اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما وعملا بفضلك يا أرحم الراحمين آمين. Brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Inshallah ta'ala, I hope everyone will enjoying the beautiful weather in London and all over UK. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept our siyam. May Allah make our qiyam easy. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept all the good deeds that we're doing. Ameen. And all the things and all the good deeds that all of us are performing. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept it from us. And because of it, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala remove COVID-19 and all other illnesses that we have. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala remove this epidemic that we are facing these days. اللهم ارفع عنا البلاء والوباء اللهم ارفع عنا البلاء واكشف عنا الوباء. And this is a dua that I would recommend everyone to make. اللهم عافني في بدني اللهم عافني في سمعي اللهم عافني في بصري. And also اللهم إني أعوذ بك من البرص والجنون والجذام ومن سيء الأسقام. Today I would like to, brothers and sisters, talk about a verse from Surah Furqan, verse number 30. This verse is a very scary verse, to be honest with you, but at the same time, this verse has motivated myself to learn the language of the Quran and to study the Quran. The verse goes like this: وَقَالَ الرَّسُولُ يَا رَبِّ إِنَّ قَوْمِي اتَّخَذُوا هَذَا الْقُرْآنَ مَهْجُورًا. That the messenger said, "O my Lord, verily my people have taken this Quran as something forsaken." In other words, my people have abandoned this Quran. Now, when did the Prophet ﷺ complain this to Allah Azza wa Jal? When this is a complaint from the Prophet ﷺ. When was this complaint? Was it in dunya, or is it that something he will say in the hereafter? There's a debate amongst the mufassirun about that. It seemed that the Prophet ﷺ has complained this to Allah Azza wa Jal in dunya. Because the people at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, at the time of revelation, they knew Arabic language, especially the mushrikun or mushriku Makkah, the mushrikun in Makkah, the idolaters of Makkah, they knew Arabic language. You know, the Yahud, they knew Arabic language. The Nasara, they knew Arabic language as well. So in Makkah, especially at that, in Makkah where the Quran was revealed, they knew Arabic language. When this verse was revealed, when the Quran was revealed every single day, they understood the Quran. However, they were not listening to the Quran. And this is why the Prophet complained that these people, they know Arabic language, despite the fact they are well versed in Arabic language, but they are not listening to the Quran that I'm reciting to them every single day. وَقَالَ الرَّسُولُ يَا رَبِّي. And the Rasul, he said, in other words, he complained to Allah, يَا رَبِّي, O my Lord, إِنَّ قَوْمِي, indeed my people, اتَّخَذُوا هَذَا الْقُرْآنَ مَهْجُورًا. They have abandoned this Quran. They have taken this Quran as something that is forsaken. How can someone forsake the Quran? How can someone abandon the Quran? You know, how could you abandon the Quran? Well, you could abandon the Quran by not listening to the Quran. This is exactly what it is. The kuffar of Makkah, they were not listening to the Quran. That's the complaint from the Prophet ﷺ. They were not listening to the Quran. And then there's another verse. It said, وَقَالَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا. Allah is telling us how the kuffar, they behaved at the time of revelation. وَقَالَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا. And then the disbeliever, they said, لَا تَسْمَعُوا لِهَذَا الْقُرْآنِ. Don't listen to this Quran. وَالْغَوْ فِيهِ. And make lots of noise when they are reciting the Quran. وَالْغَوْ فِيهِ. Talk, have idle talks. Talk a lot of nonsense. Make some noise. لَعَلَّكُمْ تَغْلِبُونَ. So that you will be overcome. So you become dominant, so that your voice is heard and not the Quran voice is heard in the community. So one of the ways of not listening to the Quran, or one of the ways abandoning the Quran, forsaking the Quran, is by not listening. Because if anyone listened to the Quran, anyone who listened to the Quran, I'm talking about that at the time of revelation, then you know what? Because they know the language, the Quran will captivate their mind. The Quran got this magnetic force that it will pull them towards it. And this is the power of the Quran. You know, you probably heard the story of Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu ta'ala anhu. Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu ta'ala anhu, mentioned by Ibn Kathir rahimahullah ta'ala in his tafsir, that Umar said one day, he managed to pass by the Kaaba. And when he was passing by the Kaaba, I think he was actually looking for the Prophet ﷺ, but not to embrace Islam. In fact, to hate the Prophet ﷺ. Because Umar, as you know, before Islam, there were times he made intention to assassinate the Prophet ﷺ, to attack him. So Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he managed to come to the Kaaba and he saw the Prophet ﷺ praying Salah. So Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu, instead of attacking him, he decided to listen to him. And at that time, the Prophet ﷺ was reciting Surah Al-Haqqa. Al-Haqqa, Mal-Haqqa, وما أدراك ما الحاقة كذبت ثمود وعاد بالقارعة فأما ثمود فأهلكوا بالطاغية وأما عاد فأهلكوا بريح صرصر عاتية. And the Prophet of Allah was reciting. Umar radiallahu ta'ala was mesmerized by the beauty of the Quran. First of all, look who's reciting, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. You could imagine the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, the Sahaba, once the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said to a Sahabi, Ubay bin Ka'ab radiallahu ta'ala anhu, that Ubay, can you recite the Quran? And Ubay said that, أقرأ عليك وفيك أنزل. How can I recite the Quran to you, O Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, when the Quran was revealed to you? The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, إني أحب أن أسمع من غيري. Please go ahead, recite the Quran, because I would like to hear from someone else. So anyway, the Quran was revealed to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Even the companions, they were afraid to read to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Because the Prophet of Allah recited with so much beauty, concentration, devotion in his recitation. He's the one who understands every single letter of the Quran. So you could imagine the sincerity, and he's reciting with such sincerity and ikhlas and istikhlas, and reciting so calmly and in front of the Kaaba. Wow, what a beautiful scenery that was. Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu ta'ala was listening and was mesmerized by the beauty of the Quran. He was so moved by the way the Prophet of Allah was reciting, and as well as the meaning of the Quran. And he said that the way the Quran was organized, the construction of the sentences and the choice of the words, I was blown away. I thought, wow, but shaitan, shaitan came with the waswasa, because if Umar becomes Muslim, it's a big blow for the shaitan. So Umar said, because the way he was reciting those verses, I said, maybe the Quraysh, maybe they are right. Maybe they are correct. When they say that Quran is the word of they call it, is magic or is poetry. Yeah. So he said that this is the word of a poet. So Umar, because I was thinking, and then suddenly, because the Prophet was reciting, as he was thinking, the Prophet recited the following verse from the same surah. وَمَا هُوَ بِقَوْلِ شَاعِرٍ قَلِيلًا مَا تُؤْمِنُونَ. It is not the word of a poet. Very little do you believe. Now, Umar radiallahu ta'ala, every objection that he had, he's finding answers for it. Every question that comes in his mind, he's got an answer for as well. And then he said, okay, fine, maybe it's a word of a fortune teller, a soothsayer then. And the Prophet of Allah recited, by the way, this Umar was just thinking about this in his own mind. He's not even uttering these words. And the Prophet of Allah is reciting the Quran. وَلَا بِقَوْلِ كَاهِنٍ. It is not the word of a soothsayer or a fortune teller. قَلِيلًا مَا تَذَكَّرُونَ. Very little do you reflect. Umar said that I left that gathering and I was thinking about what has happened. And I got to tell you, I was, Islam, basically I was moved so much by this recitation that I felt Islam in my whole body. Yeah, my whole body felt it. وَقَعَ الْإِسْلَامِ فِي قَلْبِ كُلَّ مَوْقِعٍ. I felt this. This is the level of Arabic language we all need to learn. This is what I would say to those of you studying Arabic language. Okay, we haven't made it. If you think that my Arabic language is sufficient now, is good. No, our language has to be that good that when we read a verse of the Quran, the verse will shake us. The verse will make us reflect. The verse will stop us and make us contemplate, make us ask questions and think about it. And this is the level of language that we have to get to, inshallah ta'ala. This is what happened to Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu ta'ala. Many of you will be thinking that that's Umar. He's a man of, from Quraysh. Okay. He was, someone that grew up with Arabic language. I'm a non-Arab, I'm non-native. So what would I do? Well, look at Islamic history. Okay, the very first man to write a very comprehensive book in Arabic grammar was a non-native speaker. He was a foreigner. He was a Persian, Sibawayh. Okay, he was from Basra. Yeah, he wasn't even Arab. But the book that he wrote, Al-Kitab, is one of the best book, anyone, and at that time anyway. To be honest with you, no one has written a better book in Arabic language or grammar in any language than, how do you call it, Sibawayh, rahimahullah ta'ala. And he wasn't even an Arab. Okay. And moving on, not only Sibawayh, there's another scholar, his name is Raghib al-Asfahani. Raghib al-Asfahani from the 11th century. Raghib al-Asfahani from Asfahan, Iran. Yeah, again, a non-Arab, he wrote a book called Mufradat al-Quran. Yeah, Al-Mufradat fi Gharib al-Quran. This man is telling us about the words that we have in the Quran. The book of Allah is teaching us the language of Allah, language of the Quran. What's the meaning of this verse? And what's the meaning of this word? Yeah, this is again. Look at the contribution of the non-Arabs for the Quran. Okay, and then you move on, and then another man came later on. You're probably thinking that Raghib al-Asfahani and Sibawayh, these two are they're from Iraq. Yes, it's a Persian province and Persian area. However, they learn Arabic language. Well, there's a man from India, from Gujarat. His name is Muhammad Tahir al-Gujarati. They used to call him Fitni. Muhammad Tahir al-Gujarati. He wrote a book, Majma' Bihar al-Anwar. Majma' Bihar al-Anwar. And in his book, he's explaining to us the words of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam hadith. Okay, a man from Gujarat, he wrote a book telling us the vocabularies used by our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So if you study Bukhari, Muslim, Abu Dawud, Tirmidhi, Nasai, Ibn Majah, they are known as the Sihah as-Sit. Yeah, you find any word that are considered to be gharib, difficult words, you'll find the book of Shaykh Muhammad Tahir al-Fitni al-Gujarati in his book Majma' Bihar Anwar, and explanation of these words like that. So non-Arab, they contributed. They learn Arabic language. And after they learning Arabic language, they went to the depth of Quran and Sunnah, and they've understood the Quran and Sunnah, and they spend so much time reading Quran and Sunnah. There's another scholar I would like to mention. My students, they know that I mentioned him a lot. His name was Maulana Anwar Shah al-Kashmiri. He was from Kashmir, origin from Kashmir. Then he moved to India, and he taught in a madrasa called, he studied in a madrasa called Deoband. Yeah, and then he became a teacher of hadith after he graduated in the same madrasa Deoband, and then he died and is buried also in Deoband as well. In the middle, he went to Dabel and taught there for a few years, and then he came back to Deoband again in India, and he passed away. This Shaykh, he was so amazing. Anything that is to read is to by the way, he died in 1933, so I'm not talking about someone so long ago. 1933, he passed away, the Shaykh. Anything he's to read is to memorize it. Yeah. But they said that he couldn't memorize the Quran. Someone asked him, the Shaykh, why couldn't you memorize the Quran? It's because that whenever I should read a verse of the Quran, this verse is to make me reflect. I should spend the whole day and night thinking about it. Okay, thinking about the balagha of the Quran, the rhetoric of the Quran, the fiqh of the Quran, the usul, the tafsir, the lugha, everything. Because these ulama, they should take everything from the Quran. There's so much time they used to invest learning the Quran. Yeah, they were not the people mahjura who abandoned the Quran. These scholars were amazing. Anyway, the Shaykh used to say something so beautiful to his students. Is to say that lam ya'rif i'jaz al-Quran illa al-a'rajan. He used to say that no one has understood the miracle of this Quran, the lugha, the grammar, the syntax, the morphology, the language, the construction of the sentences, the rhetoric, the balagha, the fasaha, and no one has understood the Quran in that detail except for two men, is to say. Look at the way he's rhyming. Lam ya'rif al-Quran, lam ya'rif i'jaz al-Quran illa al-a'rajan. A two-person, a'raj means those who have lame, disability, they can't walk. He said, so there was a scholar, his name was Zamakhshari. Zamakhshari, Jarullah Zamakhshari, he's one of his, he had a broken leg, so he used to walk with lameness. And there's another one, his name is Abdul Qahir al-Jurjani. Abdul Qahir al-Jurjani. Both of them non-Arabs. And the Shaykh saying that two non-Arabs, they have understood the miracles of the Quran. They've understood the mu'jaza of the Quran. Why Quran is mu'jaza? Why Quran is a miracle that no one can produce any verse like the Quran? The wisdom behind it, they have understood this. The Shaykh said, لم يعرف إعجاز القرآن إلا الأعرجان أحدهما في زمخشر والآخر في الجرجان. One of them in Zamakhshar, okay, which is, they call it nowadays, if you go to Turkmenistan, and the other was in Jurjan, which is in Iran. Yeah, and then he should smile and say, "وَأَنَا ثَالِثُهُمْ," and I'm the third one. I've also understood the Quran as well. So what I'm trying to say is that these are all non-Arabs, but someone like they didn't just learn Arabic language. They became master of the language. And what did they do after that? They spent so much time reading the Quran and thinking about the Quran, deriving rules and qawaneen and qawaid and stuff like that from the Quran. This is called the khidmah of the Quran. So inshallah ta'ala, brothers and sisters, we should make this intention that we're going to continue to study the language, learn the language, so that we could understand the Quran without any translation, inshallah ta'ala. Coming back to the verse anyway, so the Arabs have abandoned the Quran. Why? The Prophet ﷺ, when he said that in قوم اتخذوا هذا القرآن مهجورا, he's talking about those who abandon the Quran by not listening to the Quran, not reflecting on the Quran, not even thinking about the Quran, not even reading the Quran. They basically, when people used to recite the Quran, they used to cause noise so that people do not hear the Quran. However, the most scariest thing that I read in the tafsir of Ibn Kathir rahimahullah ta'ala's tafsir, he says, anyone who doesn't read the Quran, although the verse was revealed in regards to the idolaters of Mecca and the mushrikeen of Mecca and the non-Muslims and kuffar, however, he says, anyone who doesn't read the Quran, yeah, number one. Number two, anyone who doesn't reflect on the meaning of the Quran. Number three, the one who doesn't act on the Quran. Number four, anyone finds something else more interesting in the Quran. Okay, I understand sometimes when I watch a movie or okay, people watch it or some episode or some documentaries and stuff like that, or maybe a football match. Yeah, I have no problem with that, to be honest with you. Absolutely. However, there are people who sit in the morning glued front of the TV all day watching one Hollywood movie, another Bollywood movie, another Bollywood movie, another Hollywood movie like that. They have no time for the Quran. Ibn Kathir says, those who find interest in other things other than the Quran and they completely abandon the Quran, tell them they are also in, the Prophet also will complain about them as well, that they have abandoned the Quran. They have forsaken the Quran as well. If we were to take an hour a day to invest our time to read the Quran, go over the meaning of the Quran, and we could, mashallah, there are so many translations out there. Pick up any translation that you like, okay? Sahih International, the translation by Professor Abdul Halim, or Pictorial, or Aisha Bewley, or Yusuf Ali. There are so many translations, or Muhsin Ali Khan, so many, Mufti Taqir Uthmani. There are so many translations out there. Pick up any translation that you like, it relates to you, you can understand, and read those translations, inshallah ta'ala. Yeah. So he's saying that if you don't read the Quran, if you don't learn the translation, if you don't act on the Quran, and if you find interest in poetry or music and etc., and you spend so much time, then you also have abandoned the Quran. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala save us from that. We need to find time to read the book of Allah Azza wa Jal. We are so lucky that, alhamdulillah, we could say that the Quran from beginning to the end, every single letter is the word of Allah Azza wa Jal. Other communities, they cannot say that because it went through alteration and changes, and modification, but not the Quran. Quran, subhanallah, is kalamullah, is the speech of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the last point I would like to make here is that one of my teacher, many of you have met him, read to him, Shaykh Bashir Ahmad Siddiq, from Masjid Nabawi, subhanallah. The Shaykh been teaching Quran in the Prophet's Masjid for over 53 years. The Shaykh used to say to us every time, he said that the Quran, he said, Maulana, Quran ke teen huquq hai. He just speaks so beautifully. That's why I quoted the Urdu. He used to talk like that to me. But Quran ke teen huquq. The Quran has 3 rights. And he said to recite it correctly. And he said that this is, I just talked, the Shaykh said that this is what I'm doing. I've dedicated all my life. He's over 84 years of age. He's saying that I dedicated all my life trying to teach the people to recite the Quran correctly. They say the first right of the Quran to learn how to recite it correctly. And just to give an example, he said, Apkana Mujahid hai. Yes, so your name is Mujahid. Imagine I could be Mujahid. Okay, Mujahid means the one, meaning the Shaykh. Mujahid means the one who struggles, the one who strives for the path of Allah. And Mujahid with the ha means the one who basically rejects, okay, the one who neglects. So he said that the meaning, I said, yes, the meaning will change. He said, then how could people recite the Quran without pronouncing the letters correctly? Okay, you're disrespecting the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the meaning they're changing as well. So let's make an effort to learn the Quran. So he said that this is the Quran. The first right is to recite it correctly. Number 2, to understand the meaning of the Quran. And like I just said to you, we could, inshallah ta'ala, pick up a translation, any translation in any language that we could speak fluently. It doesn't have to be in English, any other language. And inshallah ta'ala, let us go through the translation and let us reflect. Yeah. And the third is to act upon the Quran. To act upon the Quran. You probably heard this, like, there are many companions, it took them 2 years and 3 years to learn one surah. Ask yourself this question. Was it because they had bad memory? Is it because they had poor memory? Absolutely not. It is mentioned that Umar ibn al-Khattab, it took him over 2 years to recite, to memorize Surah Al-Baqarah. Is it because Umar ibn al-Khattab had bad memory? No way. Because Umar al-Khattab, in his free time, used to sing poetry. Poetry of Zuhair ibn Abi Sulma. وأعلم ما في اليوم والأمس قبله ولكنني عن علم ما في غد عمي لسان الفتى نصف ونصف فؤاده فلم يبق إلا صورة اللحم والدم. He used to sing poetry, Jahiliya poetry in his free time. So many. It's only 2 lines I read to you. There's more. This is what Umar ibn Khattab used to do. So he's memorized poetry. Poetries are not easy to memorize. Quran is very easy to memorize because Allah made it easier for us to memorize. وَلَقَدْ يَسَّرْنَا الْقُرْآنِ. So why wouldn't Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anhu memorize the Quran? It's because every time he's recited, learn a verse, is to put into practice. Is to think that, has he understood the verse? And everything about the verse he would learn and is to put into practice. That's why the companions took them so long to memorize the Quran, for that reason. So brothers and sisters, inshallah ta'ala, Ramadan is the month of Quran. Ramadan is the month, the third one is active on the Quran. So Ramadan is the month of Quran. Ramadan is the month for us to find time to reflect on the Quran. And that's why the Quranic verse said, Shahru Ramadan, and الذي أنزل فيه القرآن. Our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to recite the Quran in every Ramadan. Every Ramadan, whatever was revealed to him throughout the whole year until Ramadan, he would recite to Jibril alayhi salatu wasalam. And he continued every Ramadan, and in the last Ramadan he recited the whole Quran from beginning till end to Jibril twice alayhi salatu wasalam. So this is sufficient for us to understand that Ramadan is the month of Quran. In fact, the hadith of Ahmad, Musnad Ahmad mentioned, Tawrat was revealed in Ramadan, Zabur was revealed in Ramadan, Injil was revealed in Ramadan, and as you all know, Quran was revealed in the month of Ramadan. So Ramadan is the month of revelation. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us all the tawfiq to learn the book of Allah, to learn it correctly. May Allah give us tawfiq to recite the book of Allah correctly. May Allah give us tawfiq to understand the meaning of the Quran and to act upon the Quran. Remember, one thing I would like to say before I end is that any money that you have spent so far learning the Quran, reciting the Quran, understanding the Quran, then remember, this is the money well spent. This is the money well spent, inshallah ta'ala. You haven't wasted a single penny, inshallah ta'ala. Okay, jazakumullah khair.